Welcome to this year's National Honor Society Induction Ceremony. I'd like to invite on the stage our principal, Mr. Bazidlo, to start tonight's event.
Thanks, Dua. I want to welcome members of our school committee, central office administrators, our assistant principals, and especially want to welcome parents, grandparents, invited friends, and Mr. Paul Richard, who is director of the Shine Initiative, who's going to serve as our guest speaker for this evening's National Honor Society Induction Ceremony. I also want to recognize the current members of National Honor Society who served as outstanding role models for our community. I've been impressed with their work over the last year. I'm extremely pleased to know that as they move on, they're undoubtedly poised for success. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank our two new advisors to the National Honor Society, Ms. Teresa Canny and Ms. Hannah Moriarty, for their outstanding work with the National Honor Society this year. It's hard to start transitioning from, or hard to be a first-year advisor for the National Honor Society. To our inductees, congratulations. You've demonstrated your work ethic and commitment to the 4 pillars of NHS. The ceremony is a tribute to your steadfast determination to meet the criteria for admission into Shrewsbury High School's National Honor Society. So, as I thought about my remarks for this evening, I couldn't help but ponder what I could say that would not only resonate with you this evening, but would resonate you for years to come. So I have this very difficult task of trying to say something very articulate, cogent, and memorable to our best and brightest here at the high school. As I reflect upon your generation, I cannot help but think of the remarkable technological advances you've been afforded over your lives. Today, you're living in a paradox where technology seemingly makes life easier, yet oftentimes makes it more difficult. There's simplicity in the way we gather our information, which is easier and seems better. If you have trouble factoring your quadratics, Google it. If you want to learn how to change a tire, YouTube it. If you want to drive from Shrewsbury to Madison Square Garden, turn on your Waze app, your app map, and find the fastest way to get there, turn by turn. All impossible when I was growing up. Just a disclaimer, I haven't been compensated for my references to Google, YouTube, or Waze, so if you're out there, we certainly will take money for the Colonial Fund. Through this technology, you can certainly find the answers to all your curiosities. However, our connectivity and attachment to the devices via the internet makes me worry about your patience. All of us are constantly bombarded with information, images, headlines, and we have to determine the truth or the veracity of that information. Technology is constantly connected, technology has allowed you to be constantly connected to your friends and family. And the more connected to your family than any other generation, which is great, until your parents continually ask and text you if you turned in your homework, when's that paper due, when you need to be at the library, ask what your teacher said about that late paper, or maybe badger you about your whereabouts. They only do this because they love you and they want you to be safe. Or how about when someone posts something disparaging about that kid in class, a friend, or maybe even you? I worry about the impact that our thoughts and words transmitted through social media have on your self-esteem and self-image. Wonderful pictures, stories, messages, snaps, timelines, everyone seems like they're having a great time. But are they really? Do these posts really indicate who people are and what they stand for? The bigger question I have is, are they really happy? I worry that a false sense of reality is created by social media posts, which are affecting our overall happiness as a species. I can assure you of this. Besides your parents' fear of living with them forever, the only thing they want from you is to be happy. So, as our society helps perpetuate the myth that in order to be truly happy, we must strive to gain happiness and fulfillment through material gain. So I ask you, do you think material gain provides us happiness? Many may quip say, well, it certainly makes it a lot easier, doesn't it? Well, but does it really? The Buddhist monk, the Dalai Lama, in his work, The Ethics for a New Millennium, believes that all people have a fundamental aspiration to be happy and avoid suffering. However, he also believes that people living in a modern, materialistic, urban society are less happy and experience greater emotional and psychological suffering than others. I wonder why. And the internet won't tell me. Yet the concept of happiness is so critical and fundamental for humans that Yale University recently offered a course on happiness. Psych 157, Psychology and the Good Life. Angela Moore, who writes for Reuters, recently wrote an article on the course stating, quote, "The search for life's sweetest but most elusive treasure, happiness, brings nearly 1,200 Yale University undergraduates twice a week to an enormous hall on the Connecticut School's campus for its most popular class ever," end quote. Does everyone know Yale was founded in 1701? The most popular class ever, happiness. Why? The internet won't tell me. So Angela Moore interviewed Professor Laurie Santos and asked her, what's the draw of the class? Santos said, I quote, "It's the hope that science can help students find blissful relief from the misery that has reached an all-time high at colleges. Students report being more depressed than they ever have been in history at college, more anxious," end quote, she said. She points to the psychological phenomenon of miswanting, which leads people to pursue the wrong goals in life for the wrong reasons. One student from suburban Chicago said, quote, "What's most pressing on my mind? It's grades. It's the next job. It's a potential salary after graduation," end quotes. Professor Santos also said feelings of happiness are fostered through socialization, exercise, meditation, and plenty of sleep, which I know many of you in the audience don't get enough of. Money and possession are often seen as goals in the game of life, but the route to happiness heads in a different direction, she said. Very happy people spend time with others. They prioritize their time with friends and family, and they even take time to talk to the barista," end quote, she said. So, as we begin this recognition of your academic achievements, I want to give you, the inductees, some very simple advice. Avoid the miswanting. Do some real soul searching. Find out what interests you, what drives you, and don't get drawn into the trap that admittance into the best university is going to get you a good job, that will provide you access to the materials which will provide you happiness. It will not. Be honest, be true to yourself, be true to your friends, be true to your families, shut off your phones, meet with them face to face, engage with them, enjoy the moment, and be happy. My congratulations on your achievements. I want to thank you for being here this evening. Thank you, and have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. Bizidlo, for those profound words. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dua Ahmed, and I'm the president of the National Honor Society here at SHS. Of course, that's only for another hour or so. Today, I'd like to talk to you all about service. Last year, when I ran for president, I opened my speech with a Mary Poppins quote that goes like this: "In every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun, and snap, the job's a game." Well, clearly, Mary Poppins never applied to college. However, most jobs and tasks do have elements of enjoyment. Take service, for example. Community service is a huge part of NHS. And although it is an obligation upon all members to complete a certain number of service hours, for me it's always been more than just a requirement to fulfill. Senior year is crazy. You have APs, sports, extracurriculars, college applications, and amid all that insanity, we try to squeeze in a social life too. Senior year is great, don't get me wrong, but there are definitely some tough times where you're really going to believe that life just can't get any worse. And that's where service comes in. One of my all-time lows was right around the early action deadline for college applications, November 1st. The date to submit my NHS service hours was also creeping up. So I decided to go to the Halloween party that Friendly House, one of the organizations we worked with, was throwing for the less fortunate children of Worcester. Now, keep in mind, as I walk into Friendly House, my brain is clouded with checklists upon checklists of things to do, and here I was attempting to cross off one of the items off the list, and I just felt heavy as I walked into the building. But as soon as I got in and started helping out with some of the games they had for the kids, and seeing the smiles on all their faces, and being in an environment of people where their goal is to make those children happy, all those burdens just felt completely lifted off my shoulders. I felt light. I felt relaxed. And when I went home and reflected on the night, I realized that I'm blessed to have so much. And there are so many people just next door that don't have a roof over their heads, or an amazing school system like ours. And that's the true value of service. It helps you realize that your life is pretty good, and you're always better off than somebody else. And it helps you keep your cool and maintain your sanity. And trust me, everybody needs that senior year. Just to touch on some other work we did this year, we worked with an animal shelter in Brookfield, and that was just the epitome of the kind of work Mary Poppins was talking about. I think I had more fun there than I did work. The NHS members would go down there and the employees would have us sort out donations, or clean kennels, or my favorite, socialize with the cats and dogs. And it truly was just a break from the craziness of school. There are countless ways that you can give back to the world. And speaking from personal experience, service is the most enjoyable and most rewarding kind of work. I'd like to close with a quote by Gandhi. He said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." And on that note, I'd like to invite our guest speaker for tonight, Paul Richard. Paul Richard has served as the Executive Director of the SHINE Initiative since October 2011. He also served on its advisory board from the time of the organization's founding in 2004. Prior to becoming Executive Director of the SHINE Initiative, Paul served for 10 years as the Director of Resource Development and Community Relations for Community Health Link, one of the largest nonprofit mental health agencies in Massachusetts. He previously worked for the United Way of Central Massachusetts as Vice President of Marketing and for the United Way of Tri-County as Director of Marketing. His past experience in nonprofit work also includes that as Director of Development at St. Bernard High School in Fitchburg and as Director of Development and Community Relations for Alternatives in Whitensville and the Blackstone Valley. He served for 2 years as co-chair of the Central Massachusetts Suicide Prevention Coalition, and he currently serves as a member of the Joint Coalition on Health of North Massachusetts and the Massachusetts Suicide Prevention Task Force, and as a member of the Greater Worcester Community Health Improvement Plan and the North Central Massachusetts Community Health Improvement Plan. The SHINE Initiative was established in 2004 by directors and employees of Fidelity Bank to shine a light on mental illness. It has since become a leader in Central Massachusetts in promoting mental health and wellness of young people. In the past 5 years, the SHINE Initiative has addressed more than 30,000 children, teens, young adults, parents, teachers, and other caregivers through more than 200 classroom presentations, parent and community forums, and teacher trainings. Please welcome Paul Richard.
Thank you, Dua, very much. What I neglected to share with her, and you've heard the professional side, but more importantly, the personal side. I'm a husband, I'm a father of 4, and a grandfather of 8. So those things are more proud than all of the professional accomplishments that you cited. But I want to say to all of you, to all of the National Honor Society students who are here to be inducted tonight, congratulations. You should be very, very proud of yourselves, and I'm sure you are, and I'm sure your parents and families are as well. You have worked very hard to attain and achieve this level of recognition, and I'm sure that it's just going to continue from here on out. So I'm going to segue a little bit. First of all, I'm glad I'm standing behind this very, very wide rostrum. Because as I left my home this evening, I have a 16-year-old granddaughter at home. She's a student, a junior at Holy Name High School in Worcester. She is more observant, perceptive than any person I've ever met. And as I was walking out of the house, she said, "How can you wear a black sport coat with navy blue pants?" And I said to her, "Just so that you can see." And I said to her, well, there's a reason why I now have to wear a black sport coat with navy blue pants. And she remembered for a moment. She said, oh, that's right. The reason that I am attired this way is that months ago she purchased a Siberian Husky. He's a beautiful dog. He's 9 years old. We've all heard the story of the student who says to the teacher, my dog ate my homework. Well, truly, our dog ate my blue sport coat. I neglected, I left it on the back of the dining room chair one evening, and when I came home a short time later, I didn't see it, but I saw the dog resting comfortably on something on the floor, and I wondered what it was. Well, it was my sport coat, but he had managed to devour most of it. So, anyway, let me ask the students who are assembled before me here. How many of you believe that the heart is the most important part of the human body? If you do, would you raise your hand? I see a smattering of hands going up, but certainly not the majority. Let me ask another question of you. How many of you have mental health? If you do, would you raise your hand? I see a few hands going up and now a few more going up, and put them up proudly. Yeah, raise your hands up there. To all of the others in the audience, and students, you can keep your hands down. To everyone else assembled in the audience, how many of you have mental health? And if you do, would you raise your hand? And now I'm going to ask everyone, please raise your hand. All together. The answer is we all have mental health. And I am delighted by the fact that when we go into classrooms now and do presentations and engage in conversation and dialogue with students, most of them understand that. When I ask adults, however, they're less reluctant to raise their hand, or less confident, rather, about raising their hand. The epitome of this was that 2 years ago, I was asked to do a presentation at a professional development day for a high school that will remain nameless, but it's in North Central Massachusetts. I had 125 teachers and staff assembled in the auditorium like this as I was doing a presentation, and I began by asking them that very question. How many of you have mental health? And if you do, would you raise your hand? Would any of you hazard a guess as to how many out of 125 adults raised their hand?
7.
You're very close, 5. 5 adults raised their hand. There were some teachers nudging a colleague saying, no, it's okay, raise your hand. Don't be embarrassed. And ultimately, there might have been 10 or 12 hands raised. When I reminded everyone that we are born with a brain and that assures that we have mental health just as we have physical health. But in our society, we have been so reluctant to speak about that, to educate and inform ourselves about it, and to become comfortable and confident with it. I am of a generation that never, ever spoke about mental illness. And so consequently, we had a very hard time getting just beyond the word mental. As soon as we hear the mental, we don't hear illness, we don't hear health, we don't hear wellness. We just stop and we think illness, we think crazy, we think people who are violent, who are threats to us, who should be institutionalized. And all that has done is fuel the stigma. For all the years that I was in school, and I went to the now defunct, the now closed Holy Name Elementary School, and then I went to Holy Name High School, and I went to Fitchburg State, at that time college, now university. I don't ever recall having a meaningful conversation in or out of the classroom about mental illness and mental health. In fact, we were almost discouraged from doing that. And again, all that did was perpetuate the myth surrounding all of this. We have to become more acceptant, more informed. The brain is so important. Again, when I asked how many of you believe the heart is the most important part of the body, there were only a few hands, certainly not the majority of hands that went up. There's some debate even in scientific and healthcare circles as to whether it's the heart or the brain. I firmly believe it's the brain. Because everything that we learn, everything that we feel is processed and funnels through here first. What is the symbol for love in our society? It's the heart. What's the symbol that we associate with during Valentine's Day? It's a heart. Heart-shaped boxes of chocolates. Valentine's Day cards with hearts all over them. I often say to young people, think of what it would be like. And the reason that we do that from a marketing standpoint is because how would it look if we put brains on a Valentine's Day card? I love you, with a picture of a brain. Or we handed a loved one a brain-shaped box of chocolates. Wouldn't be terribly appealing, would it? But we have to get beyond, all of the stigma, all of the stereotypes. And I must tell you that, among the work that we do through the SHINE initiative, I'm so delighted that we decided to focus on young people. And we did that. The launch point for us really was knowing that half of lifetime cases of mental illness begin by age 14. That really propelled us to think, well, gee, if we knew that about any other chronic illness disease in our society, we'd do something to prevent it from becoming a lifetime condition. Well, if we know and understand that now, and the signs are there, and the research is there to support it, now we just need the education and the intervention tools. And I do want to commend this school system, Mr. Sawyer and Mr. Bazidlo, because when I was here a couple of months ago to address just the freshman students in their class, and we had dialogue, and every time I asked a question, I expected to get those numb and dumb stares back at me. These kids knew what they were talking about. So you're doing an exceptional job here of engaging in social emotional learning and talking and teaching mental health and wellness. I commend you for that. Other school systems are beginning to catch on to that as well. I could continue on trying to inspire you with what I have been through in life, but I do want to try to inspire you in the way that I have been inspired, and it's through young people in our community. And I'll give you a few examples of the people who have really touched me in recent years. 4 years ago, I was at Monty Tech in Fitchburg. I'd been asked to speak to all of the students, but not in a full assembly, but in their classrooms. And I was there for 2 consecutive days for about 12 hours, speaking to all 1,500 students in small clusters of 25 to 30 to 40 students. I cannot tell you how many of them came up to me after each classroom conversation to self-disclose about their illness, about what they were living with, or someone in their family. Students tell me about a mom or a dad who was struggling with depression or addiction. I remember a 14-year-old freshman who approached me privately afterward and said if there weren't so many other students around, I would lift up the corner of my jersey and show you all the cut marks that I have on the side of my body. I've been struggling with anxiety and depression and bipolar, and I'm adopted, and I have the greatest adoptive mom in the world, but she's just been diagnosed with a terminal illness. And I thought, how much more could a 14-year-old be handed in such a young lifetime? But she persevered. And I said, how are you doing? Are you getting help and treatment? And she said, yes. And I'm in an equestrian therapy program, and I've adopted a horse, and I want to be a veterinarian doctor one day. And I thought, that's fantastic. You're thinking ahead to the future. At the same time, I met a young lady at Leominster High School who, in the aftermath of the Newtown tragedy, decided to form an organization in her school called LEAD, L-E-A-D, and it stands for Let's Empower, Advocate, and Do. And those students decided that they were going to adopt mental health and wellness as their cause for the remainder of their high school years. There was a group of 10 students who one day came to me and said, Mr. Richard, we talk about mental illness and mental health for maybe 1 hour during our 4 years of high school. We have a health elective here, but all we talk about is, and these things are important, no doubt, obesity and smoking cessation and STDs and pregnancy prevention, but the thing that is most prominent among our peers is mental illness, and we do not talk about it. I said, what would you like to do? They said, well, we're going to build a mental health curriculum. And I thought, you guys are 15 and 16 and 17 years of age. Adults would have a difficult time doing that. They set out during their entire junior year to build a mental health curriculum. And we advised them. They asked if we would serve as advisors, and it's good that we did, because a lot of the information that they were pouring into their curriculum came through Wikipedia and less substantive and reliable sources of information. But ultimately, they came up with a 900-page mental health curriculum that they presented to the superintendent of schools, the principal at Leominster High School, ultimately the school committee. It met all of the standards set by the Massachusetts Department of Education. And that was adopted the following year, in their senior year, as a health elective. They had more students sign up for that course than they could accommodate. The beauty of it is that instead of getting 1 hour of exposure and conversation over a 4-year high school experience, they were now getting 85 hours of mental health education. And that curriculum has rolled over, and now it is before the Massachusetts legislature as a bill, as a piece of legislation that, if adopted soon, would become available to any school system in Massachusetts that would wish to use it. That's what 15, 16, and 17-year-olds have done. They inspired me. There's another young lady that I met 3 years ago at Bancroft School in Worcester. She was a sophomore at the time, and she wanted to start a student wellness advisory team in her school. And there was a little bit of resistance at first, but she persevered. And it was important to her because she disclosed not only to us at the SHINE Initiative, but to the school administration and to the entire student body that she had struggled with depression and anxiety and an eating disorder and engaged in self-harm for years. In fact, she very brazenly and openly will hold out her arms, and you cannot count the number of cut marks on both arms. But she is a beautiful young lady. She persisted and started their club, which they called Frame of Mind. And she changed the culture in that school. Despite all that she'd been through, she graduated a year ago this month from Bancroft as the top student at her school. She earned a 4-year scholarship to the University of Chicago, and she's majoring in biomed. And I've flown her back to Worcester on a couple of occasions to speak to foundation trustees and corporate leaders here in central Massachusetts. She has impressed them that much. The final young person I will tell you about who has inspired me, and I hope through my words, the words that I am conveying and the stories I'm conveying to you tonight, that they will inspire all of you, both students and parents, adults, teachers. A remarkable, remarkable person. Just met her in recent months. I won't identify the school because I don't want to embarrass them and I don't want to put her in a difficult situation. But she had approached us several months ago and asked if we would fund the establishment of a student wellness advisory team at her high school. And we said, absolutely. She went to the administration because that was always the first step. Get their support and approval first. She went to them and they said no. And she asked why. And they said, because we don't want to talk about that here. It might be upsetting to our students, and it also might be upsetting to our parents. She was deeply, deeply disappointed. But again, persistence won out. Not at her high school, but she went back to the elementary school that she had graduated from 3 years earlier. And she asked the administrators there, can I start a student wellness advisory team with 6th and 7th and 8th graders here at your school, at my former school? And they enthusiastically said yes. Last evening, she hosted the premiere showing of a film called Suicide: The Ripple Effect at the Blackstone Valley Cinema. This is a 16-year-old who went out of her way because she was inspired by a young man named Kevin Hines, who at age 19 attempted suicide by jumping from the Golden Gate Bridge. He's one of only a handful of people who have ever survived that. She heard him speak at our annual gala at Mechanics Hall 4 years ago and was so moved by the power of his words that she has continued to follow him. And she's been inspired. She lives with a variety of disorders as well. And in the face of all of that, she said, nothing is going to stop me. It's people like that that really inspire me and tell the SHINE Initiative that we're on the right track. You, as students, will be the generation that changes the culture, the mindset, and the way that we think of and treat and react and respond to mental illness and mental health so that we can turn it into mental wellness, which is something that we all need to be mindful of. So I commend you for your achievements. Thank you so much for inviting me this evening. It has been absolutely an honor and a privilege. And do great things. You've learned so much through textbooks and in the research labs, and you'll continue to do that. But always be mindful for the rest of your life that there are other things you can learn just through relationships. You know, Mr. Bazidlo talked about the importance of connectivity. You know, we've lost a lot of that in our society these days. Social media and technology are wonderful. I'll conclude with this one image. I referenced my granddaughter earlier. I love her dearly. And I said to her, and it was startling, recently, I said to her, Taylor, when you graduate from Holy Name High School a year from now, we will have the distinct honor of having graduated from the same school exactly 50 years apart. And I was so proud until it hit me. 50 years apart? I am old. I am really old. But, I transported Taylor and 3 of her girlfriends to Blackstone Valley Cinema several months ago. And this is my point about technology and the importance of connecting. So my granddaughter is seated in the front seat next to me as I'm driving them, and her 3 friends are seated in the back seat, and not a word is being said during the entire drive down to Blackstone. And I thought, well, that's not unusual. Here you get your 66-year-old grandfather driving in the front seat, and all these high school students, in the car. Until all of a sudden I heard them all giggling at the same time. And I thought, how can that be? And I glanced over to my granddaughter, head is down like this. I glanced quickly to the back seat, all heads are down, all looking at their cell phones. They were all communicating at the same time in the same way without saying a word. And I thought, that's remarkable, and yet you're missing out on that opportunity to look one another in the face and really gauge the body language and the tone of what you are saying and really feel what someone else is feeling. So don't ever lose that. As brilliant as you are, remember that those things also in life are important. Again, thank you so much for inviting me here. This is a real honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Richard. Mental wellness is an extremely relevant topic to all of us, and I think that we all have a responsibility to look out for our peers and our friends and make sure that we're not struggling with any kind of mental wellness issues like that. The next thing I would like to introduce are the member qualifications for all of you. The membership of the Shrewsbury High School chapter of the National Honor Society has been earned by the effective demonstration of the 4 qualities held in high esteem by the society. 4 of our members will review these qualities for the candidates. The first one is scholarship.
Scholarship means a commitment to learning. A student is willing to spend hours in reading and study, knowing the lasting benefits of a cultivated mind. We should continue to learn even when a formal education has ended, for education ends only with the end of life. Knowledge is one great element in life which leads to the highest success, and it can be acquired in only one way, through diligence and effort. Learning furnishes the lamp by which we read the past and the light that illuminates the future. Candidates have the charge to continually expand their world through the opportunities inherent in scholarship.
Service. My office is service. Service can be described in various ways. In the routine of the day's work, many opportunities arise to help others. Willingness to work for the benefit of those in need without monetary compensation or without recognition is the quality we seek in our membership. We are committed to the idea of volunteering our time and abilities to the creation of a better tomorrow.
Leadership. Leadership should exert a wholesome influence on the school. In taking the initiative in class and school activities, the real leader strives to train and aid others to attain the same objective. The price of leadership is sacrifice, the willingness to yield one's personal interests for the interests of others. A leader has self-confidence and will go forward when others hesitate. No matter what power and resources may exist in a country, they are ineffectual without the guidance of a wise leader. Leadership is always needed. Thus, to lead is a substantive charge to each of our members.
Character. Character is the force within each individual which distinguishes that person from others. It gives each of us our individuality. It is that without which no one can respect oneself, nor hope to attain the respect of others. It is this force of character that guides one through life, and when once developed, grows steadily. Character is achieved and not received. It is the product of constant action, striving daily to make the right choice. The problem of character is the problem of self-control. We must be in reality what we wish to appear to others. By demonstrating such qualities as respect, responsibility, trustworthiness, fairness, caring, and citizenship, we may hope to prove by example that we value character.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Teresa Canny, and Hannah Moriarty and I are co-advisors of National Honor Society, and we are going to begin the presentation of certificates. Will the first two rows please rise? Abdur Ahmed. Dridi Ilam. Joan Albert. Amber Ali. Emily Anderson. Caroline Burney. Megan Calderwood. Lauren Cardini. Benjamin Caravo. James Chacharoni. Ian Chandra. Tatum Chapdelaine. Ahmed Chachada. Aileen Chung. Saisha Chojar. Haley Collins. Megan Connolly. Jaden Curtis. Rachel Dancy. Shirley Dang. Jerry Dang. Amanda Darby. Lillian Davis. Ria Deshpande. Veronica D'Souza. Samip Dakal. Sadant Dosi. Julia Duda. Hannah Dugan. Mackenzie Farrell. Zachary Fuller. Margaret Frederick. Ashwarya Jite. Nathaniel Grabowski. Phoebe Gullion. Erica Hanlon. Mariah Hastings. Paulina Rascosi. Ishan Hussein. Anirudh Iyer. Grace Jackson. Amber Jackson. Suhas Jivanand. Eliana Drij. Madison Kane. Natalia Karadimitriou. Adam Knight. Jackson Lane. Jacqueline Leo. Carolyn Lynch.
Christina Madden. Anshuman Madhooker. Morgan Marcello. Caroline Martin. Declan McSweeney. Olivia Muse. Carissa Mock. Caitlin Mooney. Jessica Moss. Priyanka Murthy. Shreyas Nair. Kevin Nguyen. Fiona O'Brien. Megan O'Connell. Catherine Polyakra. Arshleen Panu. Ashvi Patel. Ayushi Patel. Nidhi Petenecker. Julia Perugini. Lauren Polito. Raul Razdan. Angela Razouk. Catherine Samia. Allie Sanborn. Arij Saeed. Harini Shamugam. Prisha Singh. Allison Snell. Bazil Sohardi. Sharena Song. Catherine Southern. Olivia Spirito. Zachary St. Pierre. Rebecca Steinberg. Purong Sun. Laura Swain. Haley Tolba. Tommy Wong. Anish Schwarty. Haywan Weldai. Megan Whitcomb. Jennifer Wu. William Wyman. Police Sia. Anna Zerwas. Congratulations to the new inductees. Give yourself a round of applause.
Congratulations, everyone. I'd like to ask the new inductees to stand up, please. I'm going to repeat one part of the line and then you'll repeat it back to me as the pledge. I pledge to maintain, high scholastic standing, to hold as fundamental and worthy, an untarnished character, to endeavor intelligently, and courageously, to be a leader, and to give of myself freely, in service to others, in so doing, I shall prove myself worthy, of a place, in the National Honor Society. I pledge myself, always to seek the light of truth, to hold scholarly habits, to engage in worthy service, and to lead forward in all things, that shall advance, the welfare of the school. Congratulations, you have now been officially inducted. You may be seated. And now I'd like to invite the other officers of this previous year up to announce the officers for the next year.
Your new service learning liaison is Harini Shanmugan.
Your next treasurer is Megan Connolly.
Your next secretary is Ben Caravo.
Your next vice president is Julia Perugini.
Your president for next year is Julia Duda. That concludes tonight's program. Thank you everybody for coming and congratulations to you all.